Hello, dear friends, and welcome to the world of the International Fab Talks. It's always a pleasure and privilege to have different people across the globe celebrating their lives with us on the International Fab Talks. Today, we are proud and honored to have the special presence of a unique person with unique thoughts, views, and of course, unique contribution to the society, not only to India, but across the world. You will really be surprised as to how this person has been carrying out his beautiful journey till date. He's been spending 40 years, that is 4 decades, as a professional. He's joining us all the way from Mumbai. Let's welcome our celebrity and guest for today. He is Mr. Alok Dheer. Hello, sir, and welcome to the session.
Thank you, ma'am. My pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you very much, sir, for taking out time to be with us today. What I have understood while communicating and coordinating with you, you're a very down-to-earth person and a humble one too. So thank you very much for being so humble. When you meet people who have achieved so much in life and have no ego, you really like to bond with them. We've also seen people who have a lot of ego, having achieved nothing yet in their lives. So there is a lot to learn, my dear friends, from our heroes who are here with us on the International Fab Talks. My dear friends, I take the privilege and the pleasure to share the profile of our celebrity and guest, of course, with sir's permission. Sir, with your permission, I go ahead and share your profile.
Please do. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. My dear friends, I'd like to share the profile of our celebrity and guest. As I earlier mentioned, he is Mr. Alok Dheer, a wonder person. To me, he's somebody like a magician. I'm sure to you too, he'll appear like that. Let's get to know as to what sir has been doing all these years, 4 decades. He's the founder of ADVENA Global Ventures, Director of Operations, Asia and Africa, Neuro 20 Technologies, Florida, USA. Apart from that, I'd like to take you much deeper into sir's profile, and it's a beautiful one. Mr. Alok Dheer is a seasoned director and CEO with a postgraduate diploma in business management, who has delivered in the most adverse environments. When we say adverse, it's all dangerous, difficult environments where you and I would never put our foot to. But here is a soul who has been over there giving his very best. And being through all the war zones, all of that, that's a secret which we'll be discussing. I'll not let it out now. He has a career of over 40 years in varied fields ranging from electrical engineering to HR, manufacturing, marketing and sales, to security and logistics, to health and wellness as well. His company was a subcontractor. He and his company, we take him like this. We take the situation like this. He and his company, that is Mr. Alok Dheer, the company that he heads as the CEO, as a subcontractor to the US Departments of State and Defense, and has also pioneered the deployment of third country nationals from Sub Saharan Africa to Iraq and Afghanistan at the height of the conflict in these countries. When I say conflict, the war zones, no, it's quite difficult for you and me to just watch it on the television or to watch it at a distance, like on screen. But here is a person who's been through all of that. So that's really nice. And we are really humbled to have this person share his space and journey with us. It's really interesting to know, sir. He has also been amongst the first to identify the Republic of Uganda as a source for a large number of able-bodied, trained, English-speaking personnel for security duties for American private security companies. Alok Dheer sir is a team leader of repute, and with his team has always met and exceeded contract requirements in terms of numbers, above all quality and compressed timelines. Sir is well connected to the government and security agents in most sub-Saharan African countries, notably Uganda and Kenya. Sir has also led the government and public opinion in these countries where the Iraq employment had ceased to be looked upon suspiciously and had become an independent, organized, and a respected industry, as such actively supported by the governments. In Uganda, this industry is also formally termed as Iraq CIO. He has also extensively his footprints placed across Africa. These beautiful countries called as Uganda, Kenya, Zambia, Ethiopia, and Ghana, to name a few. Eastern Europe, Bosnia, Macedonia, and other countries. Alok sir has also even visited and put his footprints, or has left his footprints on these beautiful countries as well, the continents as well. You could say that it could be USA, it could be South Asia, etc. Sir has also given his very best to our own country, that is India. Sir has returned to India with a beautiful passion in his heart and mind as well to promote and monetize the inventors. Now, what is that? That's a secret. We'll get to know various innovations from India across the globe. So we'll ask Sir as to what it is. Sir is a proven leader of people, having led large multinational and multifunctional teams across the world, with extensive physical presence and experience in war zones at the height of the hostilities that were there at that time in these zones where Sir was. Alok Sir is a veteran in delivering where it most matters the most, where it matters the most. Let me get that right. Now, I just close my eyes for a second. Where it matters the most means where you are really needed, you should be there. This is the mistake we all do. We are not at the right place. We are at the wrong time at the wrong place. So Sir is not that type of a person. He has been giving his time to the place where his requirement was needed the most. So I really like these two words. Be where it matters the most. That's really nice, Sir. Sir's presence and involvement as a mentor to local companies and as the Director of Operations Southwest Asia and Africa with Neuro 20 Technologies Corp, Florida, USA, who has pioneered a unique concept of whole body electromuscular stimulation. Now, what is this? We get to know more. We'll discuss with Sir. He is also leading something called as Make in India effort. Now, this is something beautiful. And you know why I like this special personality and celebrity? He's not only worked for India, he's not only worked for any one or two countries, for the universe. So here is a person who's contributed so much to the universe. Let's get to know his journey, his experiences, his thoughts and views today on the International Fab Talks. Dear Sir, you have a very, very impressive profile. That's really very nice. And to me, you appear like a magician, having your space and presence across the world. I've shared your profile in an official way, but we would like to ask you personally, who is the real Alok Sir?
Oh, you make my profile sound so much larger than life. Okay, the person you are talking to is nothing but a bundle of contradictions, a bundle of imperfections with a lot of rough edges. Most of them have been beaten in place by experiences, as we say in India, by fatas, given to you by the circumstances and the environment. Well, yes, slightly more refined bundle of contradictions and imperfections. That is how I would like to define myself.
You're a very humble person, sir. Most of us wouldn't be saying that, but you say, yes, I'm imperfect. There's lots of perfection in imperfection. That's what I feel. So all great people who have achieved so much in life, they always say that they're very down to earth. So I feel that you're very down to earth and humble, sir. So giving 40 years of your life and traveling across different countries, how did that feel in your life? Like when you were young, you were traveling across the world and all of that. So then how did you manage to do all of it? And why? First, the question is why, and then how?
That's the way to, that's the right sequence. Why? All of us, when we are young, maybe in our 20s or even before that, do have a burning desire to travel, right? To visit countries. Things have changed today. Today, traveling abroad is not difficult at all. But go back 30 years, things were not so easy. I did have the wanderlust. I have traveled all over India first. I had this wanderlust, and I always had this as a youngster, as a teenager, or when I started working. I started my career as a trainee, and my monthly stipend was 850 rupees. Okay. At that time, and we used to I was working with this company called Crompton Greaves Limited, and we used to export. Now, the dollar always fascinated me. And as I understood foreign exchange in the dollar more and more. It was always a dream. I wanted to earn in dollars. As a youngster, you have those starry-eyed dreams. Well, that was the dream I had. And at the first opportunity, in spite of resistance from family and friends, I jumped at this opportunity. There was resistance because it would entail long, months and months out of home, away from home. And more than that, I entered an industry which is, in my opinion, not in my opinion, factually, the largest industry in the world. And it is not the most preferred industry in the world either. I'm talking of the war industry. So I jumped on the bandwagon of the Americans, the Department of Defense to begin with, became their subcontractor, and joined their journey in the industry that sustains the world really, the industry of war. And it all began with the American invasion of Iraq. That's when I started my journey with the war industry. Yes, it was the wanderlust, the desire to travel the world, which motivated me. And then I realized, I'll just give an example. In India, if you have to earn about, say, 5 lakh of rupees a month, you know how difficult it is. But when you're traveling abroad with some very specialized connections and capabilities, earning $5,000 a month is not so difficult. I hope you're getting my point. So it was the interest, and also, and at that age, you need money and you have monetary ambitions, and I was earning in dollars. So sort of everything fell in place. And believe me, I had a gala time. I really enjoyed my stint. I was working across time zones, working across countries, dealing with multiple nationalities at the same time. But believe me, it was fun. I enjoyed it, and sometimes I miss those things.
Yes, that's really nice to know. That's really nice. So, like, you are keeping me speechless because, when you say you're connected with the defense, with the security, and all of that, that really, is making me speechless. But still, I'd like to go deeper and get to know you more. Like, so, at what age did you get this feeling to enter into this field of traveling across the world?
Traveling well in my early 20s. But I did travel. I traveled on various occasions. I was also with this organization known as JC's or JCI or Junior Chamber. I mean, it keeps changing its name. I've been to Japan under the banner of JCI. I had been to the US as a group study exchange member of Rotary International. I did travel even before that. But I entered this industry maybe I think it was in my early 40s when I entered the war industry. In fact, it is about the time the US first invaded Iraq during the days of Saddam Hussein. It is since those days that I am associated with the war industry, with the US government.
That's really interesting. So very interesting. So, and you need a lot of courage to take up the decision to go into this field, actually. Maybe know your experiences.
But
yes.
I'll tell you what, there is a big misnomer that we as Indians, in terms of our psyche, have it in our mind. I've met all nationalities in Afghanistan, for example. I met a lot of Pakistanis. I met a lot of East Europeans. I met a lot of Bangladeshis. I met a lot of Nepalis, but I did not meet any Indian. It is the psyche, it's a fear. You see, I mean, in Africa, a lot of Indians ask me, is Africa safe? I'm sure many of you would have this question. My counter question to you is Mumbai or Hyderabad or Delhi safe for a foreigner at 1 a.m. at night? Can he walk on the streets of those cities? I'm sure your answer is no. Well, Africa is safe for an Indian to walk on the streets of the Republic of Uganda at 1 a.m. at night, bar hopping, enjoying life. We as Indians have a fierce psyche. War, Africa, the dark continent. It's not like that. My journey has been mighty, eye-opening. The world is a beautiful place.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for removing our fears, which we have, unbiased fears, that it's like, we should be very open and accept everyone with lots of love and respect. We have to remove this fear of this fear of having, it's called as xenophobia, fear for foreigners. We have to kill that fear. That's really nice, sir. We'd like to know your experiences in Uganda. As you say, it's a beautiful country, and at one aim, you can walk across the capital of Uganda and spend time over there. How did you enter into this country, and what was the main purpose behind you entering the country first?
The Americans were looking for, you see, when they're fighting a war, they need a lot of passive security. As in when they are sleeping, when the soldiers sleep, they need someone to keep, they don't need people to fight their wars, but they need it at that time. People to keep a watch, like whether they're safe, somebody to alert them if there is any danger coming. So they were and an American to do this would cost you $10,000. So from the economics point of view, they were looking at, okay, let's put it bluntly, they were looking at cheaper manpower. Okay. Now, $1,000 a month salary for a Ugandan, $1,000 would be more than a year's salary for a Ugandan, which they offered in a month. Secondly, the jobs were relatively safe. I personally visited Iraq and verified that the people I employ, see, the people were my employees. I was their contractor, and I would be sending them to work for these American private security companies. It was my responsibility that they are safe and not directly exposed to war. So they were not exposed to war. They were, the food that they got there in that war country, the American food, is something they had never eaten in their life. All of them gained about 20 kgs over 2 years, over 2 years of the contract. They got excellent food. They got excellent facilities to stay. They got recreation facilities, only 8 hours of work, and paid $1,000 a month, like given $100 there for pocket expenses and $900 coming back home into the bank accounts, where we would plan their savings and upkeep of their families. So, this was the type of work. So we sort of did a survey when they wanted manpower, TCNs, third country nationals. By the definition, going by the definition of the American government, the first country nationals are Americans. The second country nationals would be the locals, like if they're in Iraq, the Iraqis. If they're in Afghanistan, Afghans. Third country nationals is people coming from any other country, including me. I would have been a third country national if I was employed there. So they were looking for third country nationals because they could not trust the local population because they didn't know them. They were fighting a war in that country. So they're looking for third country nationals at a lower cost. We did a lot of survey. We chose Uganda because Uganda has seen a lot of change in government. Whenever I say Uganda, the first thing that a lot of people think about is Idi Amin, right? The former president of Uganda. Idi Amin was the president. He had an army. Then he was overthrown. So his army became rebels. The government changed. So government kept changing. And we came to a stage where Uganda was left with thousands of trained military persons, jobless. Okay. And Uganda is an English-speaking country where English is their national language. So we had that advantage as well, because if you're sending somebody to work for Americans, the person had to be well versed with English. So we zeroed in on the Republic of Uganda, trained people and English-speaking people. And believe me, these Africans are really able-bodied and are much stronger than probably the average Indian or even maybe most Europeans. So we zeroed in on Uganda, and we had at the peak of deployment, we had 24,000 Ugandans in Iraq, 24,000. And they were sort of employees of my company, contracted to work for the US government contractors in Iraq. In short, I would like to take just half a minute and tell you about Uganda. It is such a beautiful country, ma'am. It is such a beautiful country. Nationalism makes me say India is the best country in the world. But there are some more beautiful places outside as well. The land is so fertile there. Uganda is a country which is many times more poorer than India, but there are no starvation deaths there. You take a handful of grain, throw it in the soil, and one family eats for a whole year. Such a fertile soil, greenery, clean environment. As of yet, apart from the capital city of Kampala, it is not polluted, fresh air. It's beautiful weather, the source of the river Nile. Believe me, it's a beautiful country. I call it my second home.
That's really nice, sir. That's really nice. And you mentioned Nile, that's the longest river in the world.
Yes, it originates in Uganda.
Oh, that's great.
That is the only river which travels from south to north. It originates in Uganda and ends in Egypt. Okay, most of the rivers are either east-west or north-south in Africa. Even in India, you will see there is hardly any river which goes from south to the north. This is a typical characteristic, geographical, what do you call, phenomena across the world. But this is one of the very few rivers, and maybe the only river in the world, that goes from south to the north. And it takes such a magnitude when it reaches Egypt, that the country Egypt is known as the gift of the Nile, right? And this river originates in a lake in Uganda. It's a beautiful sight.
Thank you, sir, for sharing that. Thank you very much. That's really very nice. That's really nice to know. Many of us will not have this much of knowledge as to how things work in different countries. We always have this fear of foreigners, and especially if it is Africa, or, we have some negative concepts in our mind. We are very biased. We have to overcome all of that and get to know the truths and facts. And you're sharing all the facts over here with us. So you've also been in a dangerous war zone, Afghanistan and Iraq. We'd like to know your experiences first in Iraq, and then we go to Afghanistan.
In Iraq, my experience, though the time I spent was longer, but my experiences are limited because I had very limited contact with the common population. We used to travel by chartered planes or helicopters from Dubai right into air bases. Like there was this air base called Al-Assad. So you would directly get into Al-Assad. I mean, no immigration, no nothing. And out of there, back into Dubai. So there I have spent most of my time on the camp itself, making sure everything is okay. In Afghanistan, I had the opportunity to move around Kabul. In fact, I moved to various places in Afghanistan, various other cities, from the, just to, I mean, as a tourist. Very few people go to Afghanistan as a tourist these days. But in Afghanistan, let me tell you that the Afghans love Indians. They love Indians. For different reasons. I will not go into the political aspects of it. For example, I was there when we had this Cricket World Cup. I think it was a T20 World Cup, and the first match was between India and Afghanistan. That was the only time we were on the opposite sides of the fence. Otherwise, the Afghans supported India. Their favorites, their heroes, those days. MS Dhoni. Every Afghan knew MS Dhoni. He was the captain of India at that time. Every Afghan knew Salman Khan. Every Indian knew Salman Khan. And every Afghan. And strangely, those days, every Afghan knew Katrina Kaif. Now, I was amazed. I did not know Katrina Kaif because I'd been out of India before that. I had stopped seeing movies. I never knew who this lady was. I mean, today I know Katrina Kaif since I'm back in India, but I'd never heard of her. But the Afghans were there. They loved Indians. I had a beard. My friends, my Afghan friends would make me dress up in their typical, like what we call in India, Pathani dress. And they would take me out without security, without anything. And whenever stopped by the military, because the army protected, provided security in Kabul, I only had to say that I can't speak because I did not speak the language. And they would say, oh, he's my uncle, he's my mama, or he's this and that. And I was accepted. Going to any shop, they would introduce me as, Hindi means an Indian. The guys would close their shutters and sit and talk to me. They love Indians. The common Afghan loves Indians. I had a great time. Indians were the third most targeted community those days by the terrorists in Afghanistan. Their number one target was Americans. Number two were the other Australians, Europeans, the NATO countries. And the third most targeted were Indians, because India was supporting the then government. I mean, India has done a lot for Afghanistan in terms of building schools, building hospitals, building roads, building dams. And the common Afghan sees that. And they loved Indians. And they would protect me like anything, like anything. But a time came, there was this Indian guest house was attacked and a lot of Indians lost their lives. The Indian embassy was attacked. And then I had pressure from home. Hey, what's happening? You get out of there. I came back. But I was comfortable. But I did learn to sleep with a M6 rifle next to me and a Beretta pistol under my pillow. I was trained to use them and I slept with these on my bed. But I never had occasion to use them.
Yes, so to me, it appears like a movie, you see. It is like a Hollywood movie, the way you're sharing all of that. That's really nice. Yes. Does that even happen in reality? Yes, it happens in reality, my friends. And here is a true experience being shared today on the International Fab Talks. So that's really nice. And I'm so happy and glad to know that the Afghans loved Indians and respected Indians, and they gave you a lot of respect. And they took you along with them, and they allowed you to mix freely with the others too.
They invited me home for dinner, for lunch. Now, the Afghans don't invite the foreigners home because you know how protective they are about their women folk.
Yes.
But I have been to Afghan homes for dinner and for lunch, and I was taken care of by them. I was protected by them, and I got a lot of love in Afghanistan.
So it also depends on you as a person, because you're a very down-to-earth person. You're very polite and humble. That could also be a reason as to how others treat you. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm saying that in the right way.
You are very correct. One has to appeal to them. One has to be like them. I'll give you a small example. In Africa, in Uganda, a lot of people would be after me. Why don't you come to the meetings of the Indian Association? A lot of Indians. Why don't you come to the meetings of Indian associations? So I used to tell them, I'm in Uganda. I meet millions of Indians back home. But here I would like to spend more time with the Ugandans to understand them, to understand the African culture. We have a lot of misnomers, a lot of wrong ideas, a lot of fears about Africa and Africans in our mind. When I meet them, they're nice, warm people. I mean, something is wrong. So I would like to spend time with Ugandans, and they appreciated that. There is an event that all Indians are going to a certain function, and I would be with the Ugandans. So I'm just giving, that's why the Ugandans love me. I'm just giving an example. Yes, you're very right. It depends on how you present yourself to them. Now, I was the boss, but I never acted as a boss. Now, my security guard is an Afghan. Now, if I don't win him over, tomorrow he's going to turn around and shoot me. So you have to win over their hearts, their trust. I mean, winning the trust of your subordinates and employees is more than winning their respect. You have to win their trust, and they should be able to trust you. I think this is the key thing that I learned in my journeys across the world.
Excellent, sir. Trust, my dear friends, trust is very important. You said more than respect, it is earning their trust. Yes. That's a beautiful one that you've shared, sir. Very much interesting to get to know more about you. What about your journey? Before we go to your journey to the next country, I would like to ask you personally, your family members, were they with you or were they back in India?
Africa, they used to, Uganda visit me on and off, but obviously not in Iraq, not in Afghanistan, not in Somalia. I was in Somalia as well, not in those countries. Uganda, yes, they used to visit, but I used to come home every 3 or 4 months, particularly from Afghanistan, from Iraq. I would never spend more than 3 months at a stretch there, because this was the American rule. You need a break after 3 months for your mental well-being. So every 3 months I would get a break, and once I would come to India, spend a month. Once I would go to Uganda, spend a month. Like every 3 months, I had to exit that site for 1 month. So I had a lot of breaks, and I used to visit home pretty often.
This is another question, very personal question. So when you would come back home and it was time for you to leave again to visit a foreign country of an official visit, so how did your family react? Did they allow you to go happily, or they held you back and said, don't go?
They got used to it. This guy comes, this guy goes. So, I mean, they only told me, hey, listen, please tell us for 4 or 5 days in advance. I mean, before you leave. Don't pack up your bags and say, hey, I have my flight tomorrow. That's the only thing they expected of me. But they got used to it. They got used to it.
This is also very true. Like, inform at least 1 week before, maybe 4 to 5 days before. All of a sudden, if you say I'm traveling the next day, then that's like a shocker, right?
It's like I'm there. See, I have a month. I spend 15 days with family. I would like to work for the rest of the 15 days. So I would like to either look for something in India or go back to either Uganda or Kenya and look for some other work to do. What's a vacation? I mean, a vacation, you need a break. That's it. But like in a week, if you tell me that, I mean, people say that you have a 4-day week. See, those 3 days in a week, if I'm supposed to be on a holiday, I'm going to go mad. I need 1 day. But anything more than that. So a month every 3 months was too much of free time for me. Oh, I had a lot of fun with friends and moving around and partying about and all that. But the work has been, see, I was never working. I was doing what I liked to do.
Yes.
I never really worked. I enjoyed my work.
Very true, very true. So, what's your experience? What has been your experience with regard to Iraq? And why did you enter into that country?
Iraq, I did, see, the situation was different. In Iraq, we were, whenever I had to visit to set things right or, like supervise things or make sure things are happening, I was always a guest of the Americans. So I had to abide by their rules. And their rules were that border of the camp, you cannot step out. So the only Iraqis I could really interact with were those who were inside the camp, which were very few. I mean, we had Filipinos who offered, the cleaning services and stuff. We had Nepalese who were, I don't know, a lot of Nepalese and Bengalis from India and Bangladeshis were there as cooks, as chefs. But very few Iraqis as such inside the camp. In Afghanistan, I was traveling on my own. I was not anybody's guest. So I set my own rules. So there I used to move around. I made friends and I used to move on. In Iraq, I was not allowed to because my hosts would set that limitation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So among all these countries, like if I would ask you, which was the comfort zone? Where did you feel comfortable and accepted more? If I'm not mistaken, is it Uganda?
100% Uganda.
Yes.
It is a safe country. It's a fun-loving country. The Africans don't have a culture of saving, unfortunately. Somebody who earns a sort of, say, a lakh of rupees today, you'll find him in the bar at night with, whatever, 3 or 4 women. And the next morning he's again, can I have 1,000 rupees for breakfast? I mean, that is the culture. Very fun-loving people. And they love their drinks, they love their women, and they love football. And they love their music. Uganda is, every street in the city of Kampala would be a club on Saturday nights. All night, everybody is out. People go home half day, they sleep. You cannot meet anybody. The streets are deserted on Saturday afternoons till about 8:30, 9. Then people have their dinner, and at 10:30, 11, the streets are jam-packed. Everybody's on the streets, drinking, dancing, music. They love their, I mean, it was fun. Americans are lovely dancers. Africans are lovely dancers.
Yes, sir. Yeah, exactly.
Lovely dancers, and it's fun. I mean, they're fun-loving people. And once they accept you, I had a lot of fun, and I was accepted very well there. I was very safe and secure there. No weapons, no nothing. Well, petty crime. Don't you have it in India? Don't you have it in Hyderabad? Don't you have it in Mumbai? Petty crimes everywhere. But they made me feel loved. They made me feel as one of them. And I was very safe and secure. I stayed in Uganda. Even today, I have a resident permit. It's still valid. I can still fly over without a visa. And I intend to in 2024
How
on a
lucky.
holiday. My
Yes, sir.
friends, I made a lot of, I'm still in touch with them. In fact, the number I'm communicating with you on is a number I've taken recently. My WhatsApp number is still a Ugandan number.
That's really nice, sir. It's very interesting. And you're lucky too. That's really nice because all don't get this chance, all don't get this opportunity. Even if they get an opportunity that you've got all these years, they will not make it, they will not use it in the right way. I feel that maybe people may take the wrong decisions or behave in a wrong way. You never know. So I think you very carefully, walked on this path says that you are again welcome to that country again and you're accepted worldwide because of your work and the way you connect with people. So I guess
You are right. You see, in India, what we see in India, Indians do the same thing elsewhere. Like in Uganda, there are many of late. I'll just use the caste of the language as an example. A lot of Tamilians. Then there are a lot of Gujaratis. So even if you go to an Indian gathering, you'll find the Gujaratis together and you'll find the Tamilians together. They stick to their own, which is a good quality. But when you are traveling, it gives a very wrong picture. I mean, the Africans are looking at you. Look at this. This is one group. Oh, this is Ruparelia group. Oh, this is Vijayappan group. That is the. Now, I was part of none of those groups, and I was part of all those groups. That made probably a difference. People prevent themselves from enjoying the culture, the nature, or whatever you have of any country by sticking to yourselves all the time. I don't say you should not stick to each other. You should, because you're the ones who are going to help each other in times of need in a foreign country. But all the time, no, you must spend time with the locals. You must move around. Many Indians miss out on this. I'm sure if you talk to any other Indian, probably who's been to Afghanistan in those days, will not speak very highly of that country. Because probably they've not ventured the way I do. Probably many Indians would not be so much in love with this part of the world called Africa. I'm in love with Africa. It's a beautiful continent. Like people say, what is there in Africa? It's the same parable, but don't send shoes. Nobody wears shoes here. Well, I would say nobody wears shoes here. Send all your consignments to Africa. I mean, it's a land of opportunities.
interesting, so interesting. So you've also been to Somalia, and what I have acquired knowledge about Somalia, it's like a sad situation to see many of the people suffering over there. I've seen little children suffering, or maybe it's with regard to the food or the climate. I don't know what is, or maybe those war zone. I don't actually know what's wrong there, but I've heard some negative news about Somalia. So if I'm wrong, kindly check me and share the right facts. What was your role in Somalia, sir?
Like you see many pictures of famine with those
Yes,
malnourished children. Those pictures emanate from Ethiopia and Somalia. You see, Africa is a country, is a continent of tribes. Like you have castes in India, they have tribes in Africa. I don't know if you have read as a child Phantom comics. Phantom as a character, those comics, those tribes are real, by the way. They've shown a jungle with those 2 or 3 tribes. Those tribes are real. Okay, they're no more in jungles, now they're in cities. But they're highly tribal in character. There's a lot of ethnic conflict in Africa. This is one. That's why the wars, the fights. The biggest problem is the Western world has exploited Africa, has sucked out the resources, leaving them with nothing. And in the process, the corruption there is of a very high level. The leaders are corrupt. I'll say this openly, as is in most places of the world. Leaders are corrupt. The resources that Africa has are being sucked out of Africa with the benefit of Western countries. For example, Nigeria is the third largest producer of oil in the world. Third largest producer of oil, and is one of the poorest countries of Africa. So where does the oil go? It goes into the pockets of Shell, of your Total, and all these Western oil countries. It goes to their countries. Now people are waking up and they're demanding their pound of flesh. When you want to exploit the resources of Africa, those countries are asking for their share. Problem is ethnic strife, which, I don't know, in India, I'm not going into politics again, but Indians have been, divide and rule policy. That's what the world follows everywhere. The conquerors follow everywhere. In Africa, it has been easier to divide. I mean, drive a wedge between different tribes. It's a highly tribal country. A country like Uganda, which is physically half the size of Maharashtra as a state, half the size of Maharashtra, has, I think, 23 main tribes. 23 main tribes. Now, each tribes, there are different religions. There are Christians, there are Muslims, there are traditional African religion followers, and then there are the tribes. So these differences, there's a lot of ethnic conflict. There is poverty, and there is corruption. Things are changing.
Yes, sir. So now you've been on this beautiful space of giving your very best as a professional. You say it's your passion. You've done it to your very best. You've given more than 100%, all that I can say. Because you speak with such passion and with such, you have facts with you. When you speak, you have facts. So.
Convinced. I know what I'm talking about.
Yes, yes. So now, during this process of connecting with all these different countries with regard to the security, with regard to whatever you've been contributing to these different countries with regard to your profession, you might have faced a lot of challenges as a professional. So how did you manage these challenges? I mean, no profession is free of stress and the challenges that we face. You might have faced. So what type of challenges did you face and how did you overcome them?
Well, I was specifically talking of my overseas journey, the challenges I faced. First is getting accepted as a leader, as a boss. I mean, I'm a foreigner. And other than countries like Afghanistan, Indians are not the most respected people. Because Indians also, an African would do business or do trade with a margin of 25%. An Indian goes there and throws him out of business, does business with a margin of 2%. That's the typical Indian mentality. Indians are not very liked or respected as a community, as a group in Africa these days. So my first challenge was to get accepted as a boss. As a boss, yes, they had no choice, but as a leader, as somebody that we could work as a team. That was my first challenge. I think that was my biggest challenge. My biggest challenge. And initially, when I first went there, yes, I did go through a cultural shock. I mean, I landed, my first day in Africa, I landed in a particular camp where there were 400 Africans around me. They're doing those fitness drills and stuff and gleaming with sweat and wearing shorts and nothing else. Surrounded by 400 of them. And I was the only Indian. I had 2 Pakistani colleagues with me. Now, it was a cultural shock. So first was me accepting that I got to stay there and work with these people. By the way, I got along famously with Pakistanis as well. I've met a lot of Pakistanis in the Middle East and Africa. And then getting accepted that, okay, this is the guy you got to work with, and this is the guy who will lead us somewhere. These were my biggest challenges in that journey. Yes, initially there was fear of war. And first time they said, you're about to go to Iraq. I'm like, God. Yes, I had that initially. But that was just the first ones. Then I was comfortable. The type of security these Americans have also. The major challenges was getting accepted. And Another challenge I faced was to have an American respect me as a leader. I had 6 American subordinates. Four of them placed in 2 in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan, to coordinate with the American embassy. It's easier for a US citizen to, American passport holder to walk into the ambassador or any security official. And I had 4 of them in Uganda. So having foreigners to accept me as their boss. One is going into Uganda and wanting Ugandans to follow me as a leader. Challenge 1. Any country, Afghanistan, Iraq, say. Second is having these different nationalities, Australians. I had 1 Brit. These people who always consider themselves superior to you, having to report to me. Well, they had no choice because I was paying them the salaries. But eventually we became very good friends. But initial challenges that I faced were something like this. I'm not going by any jargon. I'm just sharing. A lot of jargon. I'm sure a lot of people will share a lot of jargons with you. But I'm just sharing experiences and free-flowing as it comes.
Yes, sir. We are really thankful that you're sharing all of this with us, sir. Thank you very much. Dear sir, among all the countries that you've visited on a professional, on professional basis, which one was the most fearful and dangerous one, where you felt, I'm in the wrong place. I could be in the wrong place?
Afghanistan, in spite of the fact I said that they love Indians, because there I was on my own. I mean, it was my risk. In Iraq, I was always protected by the Americans. In Africa, I was in a safe country, but I was literally in a war zone where I could hear bombs exploding at night. I mean, sometimes I would be woken up at night with an explosion somewhere, and I would grab my M6 and look around. What am I supposed to do? Because there I was on my own. So a little bit of fear probably would grip me once in a while in Afghanistan.
Yes, thank you, sir, for sharing. Thank you. So now we'll just move away from your professional space. I will come back to it a little later. I'd like to know, how was your childhood? What type of a kid were you when you were a youngster, when you were a little kid? Like, were you the naughty one or very talkative, shy? What type of a child were you below the age of 10?
Well, I come from a very small family. My father is the only sibling of his parents. My father had no brothers, no sisters. Same with me. I'm an only child. No brothers, no sisters. So I come from a very small family. When I was growing up as a child, in earlier part of my school days, I was a loner. Probably very shy. I used to keep very much to myself. Not a very good child. Maybe a little bit spoiled as well, but a loner and a brooder, be with myself. That was my childhood. I do remember distinctly, I was a lonely child. I didn't make friends easily. But if I made friends, well, friends from my primary school days, those I made friends with, we are still in touch. But I made very few friends at that stage. As I progressed in school in my later days, and I came to college education, I opened up a little bit. I got actively involved into sports, dramatics, public speaking, blah, blah, blah. And that sort of built up my confidence, and I was a different person. By the time I started my first job at the age of 21, I was a different person. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but as a child, I was a loner, I was a brat. I was not a very good child.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing. I'd like to ask you, like, you being the only child of your parents, like when you wanted to, leave the country and go to another country, how did your parents respond to that?
When I left, my father was no more. My mom was very sweet. She's also passed away 5-6 years back. She's very sweet. Do what pleases you. And the first person I called over to Uganda after I settled down was my mom. Because she would probably feel it the most. Family lived with my mom. I was very close to my mother. I mean, spoiled brat.
The only child. The only child, right?
Oh, mama's boy.
I mean, your mom would have been very strong to let you go. Yes, because being the only child, they have certain reservations not to allow the only child to go to be with them. But then I think she might have really had that courage, or might have developed that courage and confidence to send you with a happy face, or a smile on her face.
I had traveled before, before I went out, I had traveled, like, traveled for a month, traveled for a week. So she was used to my traveling. That's okay. I didn't tell her much about my work, obviously, war, industry, and all. But she had found it difficult to digest that I was going away, like, to work. That was one thing she found a little difficult to digest. And I promised her, within 3 months, I'm going to have you over. And I fulfilled that promise. And then it was fine.
So, do you remember any incident about your childhood which is very fresh in your memory below the age of 10? Either you got a scolding or maybe some funny incident at home or at school? Anything?
There's so many. But there's one incident I will never forget. I don't know how old I was. I don't remember. But that memory is so vivid in my mind. I was small, so small that I was sitting on my dad's shoulders. In fact, it's my favorite memory. And my legs would go. And there was this poem which I had learned in school that day. And I could not, I think I was in kindergarten. I don't know, that memory is so vivid. And I could not recite that poem. So my dad put me on his shoulder and took me out for a walk. And the poem was, now I remember it so clearly. And my legs like this: 1, 2, buckle my shoe. 3, 4, shut that door. Now, this is how I learned that poem on my dad's shoulder. This is a memory that will live with me till the end of my days. There's some incidents that just stick with you. Now, this is something I can never forget in my life. And this particular poem, I'll never forget in my life.
Yes, that's really nice. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for going down memory lane and bringing back beautiful memories. Maybe know your teenage, that teenage era, or maybe the teenage time. How was it with you? Like, did you open up? Did you begin to speak with all the friends, or did you easily connect with the opposite gender? Because that's the time people get connected very easily.
Yes. Okay. As a teenager, when I was in college, as I said, I got into dramatics, I got into public speaking, I got into sports. I did a lot of things. I started connecting with people. But a little later, maybe in my early 20s or 20 and thereabouts, I joined this organization, JCs, as a youngster. There, after that, my God, that is where probably my transformation began, and it happened. I interacted with people, and well, that's when maybe that was the age in those days. Today it happens much earlier for today's children. But in those days, that was the age probably when you started realizing about the opposite gender, the other gender and stuff. And then, those attractions and those flirtations and all of that happened in my life, 21, 22, till about, or maybe till the whole of my 20s. And then maturity started setting in, and then you settle down in life and stuff. But my 20s were, one big party.
Yes. So, as you mentioned that you kept traveling across the world and you didn't know who this particular actress was, that is Katrina Kaif. Apart from her, yes, apart from her, when you were in India, before you leave, overseas, when you were in India, which movie appealed to you the most, which had a lovely social message, which is very close to your heart? Would you like to share its name, the name of the movie?
I'll tell you something. I'm not the type who will tell you that this movie had a deep impact on me because of its message and philosophy. No. Movies for me are entertainment. You go to a theater to spend a good 3 hours, right? I only looked at it from that point of view. I never went to a movie to bring home a message. No. Whether it's with my family or friends, go to a movie, have fun. Now, I do not know when I saw it. I think it was much later than the time you are talking about. I'll just give you an example. There is this movie in Hindi movie called Chupke Chupke. Heard of it? It is a very lovely, clean, nice family drama, comedy. And out of 3 hours in the movie, I must have laughed for about an hour and a half. Those are the type of movies I always liked. In English, I liked some of those old classics like Ben-Hur, like the Ten Commandments. I enjoyed the Towering Inferno and the Poseidon Adventure. I mean, the movies I'm naming may be 30 years old, right? Because I haven't seen many movies after that. These Wolverines and stuff is something I'm not much into. But a good movie for me is something that gave me a good 3 hours. That's it. Carrying a message and all, no, not my type.
Thank you for being very frank and saying that, yes, it's not the social message I'm looking for. I'm looking for entertainment. Yes. And of course, going for a movie and watching it, I mean, going to watch a movie and having a good time and coming back. Yes, just to free the stress that's been on your mind, maybe. Yes,
And some movies you like more than the others and they remain with you and fine, that's fine. But I would not go to a movie to bring back a message, you know.
Very true. Very nice. That's really nice. So you being in the city of Maharashtra, that is the main city of Maharashtra, Mumbai, have you ever come across any of these film stars at any point of time?
Many. In fact, again, in my earlier days, a lot of my friends would be enamored. I want to meet. I remember the days when Rajesh Khanna was at his peak. People used to go crazy. They used to spend days on the streets outside his house, waiting for him to move out, sit in his car so that they could get a glimpse. So I made friends with this studio. Those days, I think now it is not there anymore. But those days, Chandivali Studios, a place where most of these movies would be shot. I made friends with the keeper there, and he would he would tell me in advance, okay, this day so and so star is coming for a shooting. So I would take my friends, and I was okay. Yes, first glance, Rajesh Khanna in flesh and blood. Yes, impressed. But I was never sort of looking at the others around me, swooning, and the girls, Rajesh Khanna, they would like cut their veins and write letters to him in blood. I was never crazy. I was never. I've come across a lot of them, but I was never crazy.
Yes. Sir. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing all of that. So, are you an avid reader too?
I was. I mean, these days I don't read a lot. You see, I've been moving around. As I told you, I was brought up in Nasik. I was educated there. Then I moved to Bombay for my college. I was back in Nasik for my work. I was in Pune for a long time. And then I was abroad for, as I said, 14 years. And abroad also in different countries. So my books, I had a massive collection of books and comics. I love comics also. Even today, if I find a comic book, I love Tintin, by the way. So but I had a massive collection of books which I lost. Yes, I do read, but not so much. I can tell you the authors I have read and I read. I'll never forget Enid Blyton. I've read all her books as a child, all her books as a child. And I think they have left a decent impression on me. As I grew with my college days and stuff, my favorite was Earl Stanley Gardner, Perry Mason. The logic used, it stimulated my mind. Later on, I was a lot into Robin Sharma, into Dale Carnegie, not so much. Anthony Robbins has influenced me a lot. Yes, I do read. I'm not a very avid reader these days, but I do read. I like reading.
Yes. So you've mentioned Tinkle, if I heard that right.
Tintin, Tintin.
Tintin, yeah, I get it now.
Belgium.
I get it. Yeah, the person who had a little,
Yes, the Belgian hero.
He had a dog with him.
Snowy.
A little puppy, Snowy, yes.
Snowy.
Yes. Very interesting.
I love comics, even today.
Yes, I get. I mean, I completely forgot this character called as Tintin and his dog Snowy. But thank you for reminding me of that. You know, that's really nice. Even as a kid, like we just used to fight over this comic to read it first, me and my siblings.
I still do.
Oh, that's really nice.
With the kids around.
Yes. Dear sir, what is that one thing you love about yourself and you admire that quality within you? What is it that you like about Alok?
It's I've learned one thing. I'm in love with myself recently. I've fallen in love. I've learned to fall in love with myself. The problem here is, if you hate somebody, you will not appreciate anything good about him or her. If you love somebody, you will not see see his or her drawbacks. Now, since I'm in love with myself, it's very difficult for me to see my drawbacks, which is wrong. But I'll say one thing. As I have evolved over the years, I've learned one thing, I think, which I like. I've developed a sense of empathy. As in, I always try to put myself in the other person's shoes and visualize before I respond to it. Something I can do quickly. Maybe this is the quality this is something I picked up during my travels. I mean, if I respond in this fashion, how would he feel or how would she feel? So I would always try to respond to the person when the person I'm responding to would take it, would hit his positive side. Maybe that's something I like about myself. It's a very difficult question. What I like about myself. Oh, I like so many things about myself. I like myself.
The best part is that you've shared about yourself, like what you like about yourself is having empathy. And getting to know how the other person feels before you reacting or responding to them, not wanting to hurt anybody intentionally. Be very conscious of how you deal with others, how to talk with others, even if others are at fault, how to balance and manage it.
You see, another area where I noticed, and this is how I'm behaving, is these days in India, I have to deal with a lot of politicians. Okay, a lot of ministers, and a lot of bureaucrats. Now, I may have my own political beliefs, but they're my own. Now, when I'm talking to a minister, he may be from the party I support, he may not be from the party, or he may be from a party I dislike. But then I have to get my work done, right? So I have to think about it from his point of view. Now, this is a very selfish way of looking at things. But well, that's how you work in India. I mean, that's the only way to succeed working with the government in India. So maybe that is when I noticed, how can I tolerate this guy's nonsense? When I come out, I think about it. But during the meeting, I have dealt with it okay. And I succeeded in getting what I wanted from him. And then I used to think, how the hell did I tolerate this guy's nonsense? Many of these guys can be a big pain. I'm not going to name people or parties, but yes, that's my experience. But I did get things done.
Like, is it something like diplomacy? Is it something like that?
Diplomacy is always there. I mean, diplomacy is always part of, very important, attribute for success in business. But no, empathy is more personal. But when I use the word empathy, it's more personal. I mean, the way I deal with my friends, my colleagues, the people around me, my family, it's more personal.
The near and dear ones. And of course, the underprivileged and yes. Or the people maybe lower. Yes.
Yeah, they have feelings too.
You have mentioned pets. Do you have pets at home?
I do. I'm a dog lover. I refused to have pets for so many years. One, because I was staying in apartments. Now, I love a dog, but I'm punishing a dog by keeping him cooped up in a 2-bedroom apartment of about 800 square feet in a city like Mumbai. I'm punishing the dog. And then these guys have a very short lifespan. I mean, I cannot, they're losing. I've lost many. I've had a dog in Africa, in Uganda. I've had a dog in Afghanistan. Wherever I have been for a period of 6 months or more, I've had it. Except in India.
Oh. So when you were returning back, did you bring your pet with you or you had to leave it behind?
I had to leave them behind. But I made sure they'll be taken care of. And I still, my German Shepherd in Uganda is no more. I mean, last year he passed away. Otherwise, I would call up every week to check on him.
Yes. Is it only dogs you have? Do you even love cats too?
Cats, yes. I mean, I'm not much into birds. A lot of people can bring birds. No, I'm not much into birds, but any animal, cats too, yes. Dogs, because their loyalty, the way a dog loves its master. I mean, it's more than any human being could love another human. It's not so much with the cat. Cat also loves its, parents or foster parents, as you say. But dogs are divine.
Yes, sir. According to you, dogs are divine, and as you say, they are more loving towards their pet parents, or you can say, yeah, pet parents. Now that's really nice. To me, I beg to differ. For me, it's cats because I've been bitten by the dog. So that's why I say, like, I've been bitten by the dog at home. Of course, it was my mistake, and I tried to shoo it away with a broom. So then it caught hold of me and bit me like 24 bites. So I'm a bit scared with regard to dogs.
It's not that I don't like cats. I love cats as well. But when you're comparing a dog and a cat, it's a dog.
Very true, sir. And they're very loyal and they will be with you no matter what, right?
They love you more than they love themselves.
Yes. So one important question for you, sir, is how do you want the world to remember you? You put your foot in different professional zones. Like it could be marketing, it could be all of that, sales, and, as a leader with security and all of that, so many, 40 years. So how would you want people to remember you? In what way they should remember you?
In my younger days, in my JAC days, we did a program on goal setting. I mean, things that will not leave me. I remember them. They made me write my epitaph, as in, you know what an epitaph is, right? Which is a slab of stone on which there's a message from your loved ones on your grave. How would you like to be remembered? They asked you to write your own epitaph. So I wrote something like, here is a guy who lived boldly, loved courageously, and wants to leave a legacy of something. Okay, I would like the world, I don't know, I would like the world to remember me as a person who made a positive impact in their life. That's about it. A person who genuinely loved, for I genuinely do, whatever, whoever, whatever. And somebody who fought all odds.
Yes, that's really nice. Yes, thank you very much, sir, for sharing that. Thank you very much, sir. That's really very nice.